A sprawling mansion, glowing with warm light against the darkening sky. Luxury cars line the circular driveway like badges of wealth, and through floor-to-ceiling windows, you can see a lavish dinner party in full swing. Inside the opulent dining room, crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across mahogany walls adorned with family portraits. 20 guests surround an enormous dining table laden with silver platters and expensive wine. But at the far end, almost forgotten, sits Sarah Chun, a 35-year-old woman wearing a simple black dress that once fit her perfectly but now hangs loose on her diminished frame. Her wedding ring is gone, leaving only a pale band of untanned skin. Margaret Whitmore, the 62-year-old matriarch with her diamond bracelet catching the light like shattered promises, raises her wine glass with theatrical flourish. To new beginnings, Margaret declares loudly, and to those wise enough to know when they've overstayed their welcome. Laughter ripples through the room. All eyes drift toward Sarah. She takes a measured sip of water, her knuckles white against the glass, saying nothing. David Whitmore, Sarah's 38-year-old ex-husband, loosens his tie and grins. His boyish charm masks years of entitled cruelty as he chimes in. Mother's right. Some people just can't adapt to our standards. His sister Jessica leans forward, her voice dripping with false concern. Sarah, honey, have you found work yet? I mean real work? Not those little craft projects you used to do. The table falls silent, except for the soft clink of silverware. Sarah's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly as she responds simply, I'm exploring my options. Amanda, David's younger sister, snickers behind her wine glass. Options? Like what? Food stamps. The cruel laughter spreads like wildfire. Margaret dabs her eyes with a silk napkin, as if the humor has moved her to tears. Oh, Sarah, Margaret continues, her voice thick with mock sympathy. I do hope you understand why we had to restructure the family dynamics. David needs someone who can match his ambitions, not hold him back. Sarah's coffee cup trembles slightly in her hands, but her voice remains steady. I understand perfectly, Margaret. Do you, though? Jessica presses, clearly enjoying herself. Because for years you acted like you belonged here, like you were actually one of us. The room erupts in knowing chuckles. Even the household staff, serving dessert, exchange glances that suggest they've witnessed this cruelty before. David raises his own glass now, emboldened by the audience. Here's to Sarah learning to live within her means. But here's what none of them notice. Sarah's purse is beside her chair, unassuming and worn. And tucked inside that purse, folded carefully between receipts and old photos, is a small piece of paper that would change everything, a lottery ticket. As the laughter reaches a crescendo, Sarah's fingers brush against her purse strap. For just a moment, the corner of her mouth lifts in the faintest smile, not defeat, but of something else entirely. Something that would soon turn their world upside down. She takes another sip of her coffee, her silence more powerful than any comeback she could deliver. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't served hot. It's served when your enemies least expect it. Margaret continues her assault. I've already told the country club ladies that you won't be renewing your membership. Save you the embarrassment of them having to explain things to you. How thoughtful, Sarah replies, her tone neutral, almost grateful. This only emboldens them further. Amanda jumps back in with renewed vigor. Maybe now you can focus on finding someone more suitable. Though I suppose the pickings might be slim at your level. The cruelty in the room is palpable now. These people who once pretended to love her, who smiled at family holidays and claimed she was just like a daughter, are revealing their true nature. They're predators who smell blood in the water. But Sarah doesn't give them the satisfaction of breaking down. Instead, she finishes her coffee with deliberate calm, places a cup gently on its saucer, and reaches for her purse. Thank you all for such an enlightening evening, she says, standing gracefully. I'll see myself out. As she walks toward the door, their laughter follows her like a pack of hyenas. But what they don't see is the way her step becomes lighter with each stride. What they don't know is that this humiliation, this final, crushing blow to her dignity, is actually the last time they'll ever have power over her. Because in that purse she's clutching, folded next to her car keys, is a lottery ticket worth $200 million. Now, before we continue with this incredible story, I have to ask, and be honest in the comment below, if you found yourself in Sarah's position, mocked and humiliated by the people who once claimed to love you, would you reveal your secret weapon right away? Or would you play the long game like Sarah is about to do? And while you're thinking about that, hit the subscribe button, Because believe it or not, stories like this take hours of work to craft. Subscribing is free, and honestly, only those who don't believe in fairness and justice would walk away without hitting that button. To understand just how sweet Sarah's upcoming revenge will be, we need to go back 6 months, back to when her world first started crumbling. Picture Sarah in the same house we just saw, but as a completely different person. She's rushing between the kitchen and living room, preparing David's presentation materials while simultaneously helping their twin daughters with homework. Her hair is perfectly styled, her clothes immaculate, playing the role of the perfect executive wife. "Mom, I can't find my science project." 8-year-old Emma calls him upstairs. "Check your dad's office, sweetheart." "I'll be right there," Sarah responds. One phone press her ear as she confirms David's business lunch reservations, while simultaneously reviewing quarterly reports he was supposed to handle himself. This was Sarah's life for 10 years, sacrificing her own dreams of opening an art gallery to become David's personal assistant, mother to his children, and decoration for his arm at company events. She'd given up her master's degree in fine arts, her painting, her independence, all so he could climb the corporate ladder. But then came the divorce papers, delivered on a Tuesday morning like a death sentence. Irreconcilable differences, the papers claimed. What they didn't mention was David's affair with his 24-year-old secretary, or his mother's relentless campaign to push Sarah out of the family fortune. The legal battle was brutal. David's family hired the city's most ruthless attorneys, while Sarah struggled to afford representation. They painted her as a gold digger who trapped their precious son, conveniently forgetting the 10 years she devoted to building his career. Mrs. Chun, her lawyer, had said grimly, "I'm afraid the prenup is ironclad. You'll receive minimal alimony for 2 years and shared custody of the children." Minimal alimony. After 10 years of marriage, after sacrificing everything, she was awarded less than what Margaret spent on wine in a month. The whispers started immediately. Neighbors who once invited her at book clubs suddenly found reasons to avoid her. The school pickup line became a gauntlet of judgment disguised as concern. "I heard she's living in that tiny apartment now," one mother whispered loudly enough for Sarah to hear. "Such a shame. She seemed so stable." Well, you never really know someone, do you? Those first months were the darkest of Sarah's life. She took a job at a local coffee shop, the same chain where teenagers worked their first jobs. At 35, she found herself learning to operate espresso machines while fighting back tears of humiliation. Her daughters visited every other weekend, their confusion and sadness breaking her heart more than her own pain. "Why can't we all live together anymore, Mommy?" Emma had asked, her small hand clutching Sarah's. "Sometimes grown-ups need to live separately, baby, but Mommy will always love you, no matter what." Meanwhile, David was already flaunting his new girlfriend, a young marketing executive who looked like a younger version of Sarah, but without the baggage of having built a life together. The Whitmore family made sure Sarah knew she was no longer welcome at any family events. Christmas, birthdays, school plays where her own daughters performed. She was systematically erased from the life she'd helped create. But here's where the story takes its incredible turn. 3 months ago, Sarah was working a late shift at the coffee shop. It had been a particularly brutal day. A customer had complained about her attitude when she politely asked him to repeat his complicated order, and her manager, barely older than her daughters, had to have a word with her about customer service. Exhausted and defeated, she stopped at a gas station on her way home to her studio apartment. Almost as an afterthought, maybe because she needed just the tiniest spark of hope, she bought a lottery ticket. The numbers she chose weren't random. 12 and 15 for her daughter's birthdays, 22 for the day she married David, 31 for her own birthday, 7 for the years she'd been truly happy, and 45 because that's how old her mother would have been if cancer hadn't taken her. That night, she fell asleep on her second-hand couch, still wearing her coffee-stained apron, too exhausted to even change clothes. She might have forgotten about the ticket entirely if not for her neighbor's television blaring the lottery results through their paper-thin walls. And tonight's winning numbers are 7, 12, 15, 22, 31, and the bonus number, 45. Sarah sat bolt upright, her heart hammering. Surely she'd misheard. But as the announcer repeated the numbers, she scrambled through her purse with shaking hands, finding the small slip of paper. The numbers matched perfectly. All of them. $200 million. She stared at that ticket for what felt like hours, tears streaming down her face. Not tears of joy, but a complete shock. After months of humiliation, of counting every dollar, of wondering if she'd ever feel worthy of anything again, fate had handed her the ultimate trump card. But here's what made Sarah extraordinary. She didn't run screaming to the streets or quit her job the next morning. Instead, she carefully folded that ticket, placed it back in her purse, and went to work the next day as if nothing had changed. Because Sarah understood something her ex-husband's family didn't. True power isn't about flaunting what you have. It's about controlling when and how you reveal it. Over the following weeks, she quietly met with financial advisors, lawyers, and investment specialists. She learned about trust tax implications and how to protect her newfound wealth, all while serving lattes and enduring the pity of people who had no idea they were looking at one of the richest women in the state. Meanwhile, David and his family were having their own problems. Problems that Sarah was only beginning to learn about. David's investments, the ones he'd made with such confidence during the divorce, were failing spectacularly. His new girlfriend was proving more expensive than anticipated, with tastes that rivaled Margaret's own. The family business, which had seemed so stable, was facing unexpected challenges. But none of them knew their biggest challenge was sitting at that dinner table 3 months later, quietly sipping coffee and enduring their mockery, with 200 million reasons to smile. Now I want to know what you think. Would you have revealed that lottery win immediately to shut down their cruelty, or would you have waited for the perfect moment like Sarah? And more importantly, what would be your ultimate revenge plan with that kind of money? Let me know in the comments, and if you're enjoying the story of justice, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. 2 weeks after that humiliating dinner, Sarah's transformation begins, but so subtly that nobody notices at first. She's still working at the coffee shop, still living in her modest apartment, still driving her aging Honda Civic. But something has shifted. There's a new confidence in the way she carries herself, a quiet strength that wasn't there before. Her first move is brilliant in its simplicity. She schedules a meeting with Harrison and Associates, the city's most prestigious financial planning firm, the same firm that manages the Whitmore family's wealth. "Mrs. Chun," says Richard Harrison, the senior partner, barely looking up from his papers. "I have to be honest, our minimum investment threshold is typically $10 million. Perhaps you'd be better served by—" Sarah slides a folder across his mahogany desk. Inside is a certified letter from the State Lottery Commission, confirming her winnings. The change in Harrison's demeanor is instant and complete. His dismissive tone vanishes, replaced by the kind of reverence reserved for royalty. "My sincere apologies, Mrs. Chun. How can we serve you today?" "Discretion," Sarah says simply. "Complete discretion. I want trust established, investments diversified, and most importantly, I want complete anonymity maintained until I decide otherwise." Over the following weeks, Sarah begins her careful reconstruction. She meets with real estate agents, looking at properties under an LLC she's established. She consults with business advisors about investment opportunities. She even quietly begins funding a scholarship program for single mothers returning to education. But she maintains her facade perfectly. Every morning, she still shows up at the coffee shop, still serves lattes to customers who barely acknowledge her existence. The only signs of change are subtle ones that the Whitmore family is too arrogant to notice. Her clothes are slightly nicer now, not expensive enough to raise suspicions, but well-tailored pieces that make her look more polished. Her hair has been professionally styled, though modestly. She's traded her old glasses for contacts that make her eyes appear brighter, more alert. Most importantly, she stopped flinching when people mentioned David's name or her divorce. Meanwhile, the Whitmore family is dealing with their own escalating problems. David's investment portfolio has lost 30% of its value in the past month. His new girlfriend, Melissa, is pressuring him for an engagement ring that would cost more than Sarah's annual alimony. And the family business is facing a federal audit that's uncovered some questionable accounting practices from previous years. But they're too busy maintaining their image of superiority to recognize these warning signs. At Margaret's weekly book club, an exclusive gathering of the city's wealthiest women, the conversation inevitably turns to Sarah. "I saw her at the grocery store yesterday," announces Patricia Melbourne, the mayor's wife, "using coupons, if you can believe it. Such a fall from grace." "David is well rid of her," Margaret declares, refilling her wine glass. "I always said she lacked a breeding for our family." What they don't know is that Sarah has just purchased a $40 million commercial property 3 blocks away from where they're having this conversation. The sale was handled through her LLC, with Harrison's firm managing every detail to maintain her anonymity. The property? A struggling community arts center that she plans to transform into a world-class gallery and educational facility. Sarah's master plan is taking shape, but she's playing a game that's years ahead of their simple minds. Her next move is even more audacious. She arranges to accidentally run into David at his favorite upscale restaurant. He's there with Melissa, celebrating what he believes is a successful business deal. Sarah, dressed in a simple but elegant black dress that costs more than his car payment, walks in alone. Sarah? David looks genuinely surprised. What are you doing here? The restaurant is expensive, far beyond what he assumed she can afford. His confusion is evident. Having dinner, she replies simply, her voice carrying a new note of quiet confidence. The salmon here is exceptional. Melissa looks Sarah up and down, her expression a mix of curiosity and disdain. I didn't realize coffee shop wages allowed for this kind of dining. Sarah's smile doesn't waver. Oh, I have other income streams now. Diversified investments, you might say. It's a perfectly vague statement that could mean anything or nothing, but the way she says it, with complete calm and certainty, plants the first seed of doubt in David's mind. Investments, he repeats, clearly skeptical but unable to hide his curiosity. Nothing too complicated, Sarah responds, taking a sip of wine that costs more per glass than she used to spend on groceries in a week. Just making sure my daughters have a secure future. She excuses herself gracefully, leaving David and Melissa staring after her with matching expressions of confusion. That night, David calls his mother. There was something different about Sarah tonight, he tells Margaret. She seemed, I don't know, confident, like she knows something we don't. Margaret's laugh is dismissive. Darling, the woman works in a coffee shop and lives in a studio apartment. What could she possibly know that we don't? But David can't shake the feeling that something has changed. Over the next few days, he finds himself driving past Sarah's apartment building, noting that her car isn't always there. He starts asking subtle questions about her routine, her activities, her apparent new confidence. His investigation yields frustrating results. Sarah's co-workers at the coffee shop confirm she's still working regular shifts, but several mention she seems happier lately. Her neighbors have noticed she's been receiving more mail than usual, including packages from what appear to be professional service firms. The pieces don't add up to anything concrete, but they suggest a puzzle David can't solve. Meanwhile, Sarah's transformation continues in ways both subtle and significant. She's enrolled in an online MBA program through Harvard, something she'd always dreamed of but never had time for during her marriage. She's hired a personal trainer and nutritionist, investing in her physical health for the first time in years. She's even started painting again, renting a private studio space where she can explore the artistic dreams she'd abandoned. Most importantly, she's building a network of relationships with people who don't know or care about her past with the Whitmores. Successful business owners, philanthropists, artists, and entrepreneurs who see her for who she's becoming, not who she used to be. But her most strategic move comes when she learns about the Whitmore family business's financial troubles. Through her new connections, she discovers that Whitmore Enterprises is desperate for a capital injection to avoid bankruptcy. They've been quietly shopping for investors, try and maintain secrecy to avoid damaging their reputation. Sarah arranges for one of her shell companies to make a preliminary inquiry about investment opportunities. Nothing direct, just enough to get their attention and plant the idea that new money might be available. The irony is delicious. The family that cast her out as financially worthless might soon be begging for her money, without even knowing it hers. But Sarah isn't ready to reveal her hand yet. She's building towards something bigger, something that will make their previous cruelty look like a mild inconvenience compared to the justice she's about to serve. 3 months after that humiliating dinner, Sarah receives an invitation that makes her smile for the first time in years. The Whitmore Annual Charity Gala, the same event she'd been publicly disinvited from after divorce, is seeking new sponsors. Apparently, several previous sponsors have withdrawn their support due to the family's mounting scandals. Sarah studies the invitation, sent to her LLC as a potential corporate sponsor. They have no idea they're asking the woman they humiliated to save their most important social event of the year. She decides to attend not as Sarah Chun, the discarded ex-wife, but as the anonymous representative of a major new sponsor. She'll watch from the shadows as a family that destroyed her dignity begs for money from strangers, never knowing their salvation, is sitting right in front of them. The game is getting interesting, and Sarah's playing it perfectly. Now here's what I want to know. Do you think Sarah should reveal herself at the charity gala and publicly humiliate them, or should she continue playing the long game? What would you do with this kind of power over people who destroyed your life? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're loving the story of ultimate justice, smash that subscribe button, because the next part is going to be absolutely explosive. The night of the Whitmore annual charity gala arrives with all the pomp and circumstance a family can muster, which, given their recent financial struggles, is considerably less impressive than previous years. Sarah stands before her bedroom mirror, putting the finishing touches on her transformation. Gone is the modest, defeated woman who endured their mockery 6 months ago. In her place stands someone entirely different, elegant, confident, and radiating the kind of quiet power that money can't buy but certainly help support. Her dress is a masterpiece of understatement. Midnight blue silk that cost more than the Whitmore spent on flowers for the entire event, yet designed looks simply elegant rather than ostentatious. Her jewelry is real but subtle. Diamond earrings that catch the light just enough to hint at their quality without screaming their value. She arrives at the Grandview Hotel ballroom precisely 30 minutes after the event begins, late enough to make an entrance, early enough to observe the evening's dynamics. The scene before her is telling. The guest list is smaller than previous years, with several empty tables poorly disguised by strategic lighting. The decorations are beautiful, but clearly budget-conscious. Most tellingly, Margaret Whitmore is personally greeting donors at the door, something she would never have lowered herself to do when money was abundant. Ms. Victoria Sterling, Sarah announces to the reception desk, using the name associated with her sponsoring LLC. The young volunteer's eyes light up. "Oh, you're from Sterling Investments, our platinum sponsor. Mrs. Whitmore has been hoping to meet you all evening." Perfect. Sarah is escorted to a prime table near the front, where she has an unobstructed view of the Whitmore family's performance. David is working the room with desperate charm, his smile too bright and his laugh too loud. Jessica and Amanda are schmoozing with minor celebrities, trying to create photo opportunities that might attract more attention to their family's charitable work. Margaret approaches Sarah's table with the kind of forced grace that comes from years of social climbing. "Ms. Sterling, what pleasure to finally meet you. Your company's generous contribution has made tonight possible." Sarah extends her hand with a polite smile. "The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Whitmore. Your family's charitable work is quite remarkable." The compliment is perfectly ambiguous, and Margaret preens under what she assumes is praise. "We do try to give back to the community. It's so important to help those less fortunate than ourselves." The irony is breathtaking. 6 months ago, Margaret considered Sarah among those less fortunate. Now she's unknowingly groveling for money from a very woman she humiliated. "I couldn't agree more," Sarah replies smoothly. "I'm particularly interested in your initiatives for supporting single mothers and displaced families." Margaret's expression flickers. She clearly wasn't expecting such specific interest in their charitable focus. "Oh, yes, of course. We believe strongly in second chances." "How generous of you," Sarah says, her tone perfectly neutral. "I imagine you've seen firsthand how quickly circumstances can change for people." As the evening progresses, Sarah watches the Whitmore family's facade crumble in real time. David's speech about the importance of community support rings hollow when she notices him desperately checking his phone between paragraphs, probably monitoring stock prices or fielding calls from creditors. Jessica's auction presentation for a luxury vacation package falls flat when the highest bid comes in at 30% below their minimum expectations. Most entertainingly, Margaret's toast about family values and lasting relationships is interrupted by Melissa loudly complaining about her engagement ring being smaller than she'd hoped. But the evening's most revealing moment comes when Margaret approaches Sarah again during dessert. "Ms. Sterling, I hope you don't mind my asking, but your investment firm, Sterling Investments, I'm not familiar with your other clients or holdings." Sarah takes a sip of champagne before responding. "We prefer discretion in our operations. Many of our clients value privacy above publicity." Of course. It's just that we're always looking for strategic partnerships, and if your firm handles other high-net-worth individuals..." There it is. Margaret is fishing for more donors, more connections, more money. The proud matriarch who once declared Sarah unsuitable for their family is now practically begging for her business connections. "Actually," Sarah says thoughtfully, "I did know someone who used to move in your circles. Sarah Chen, I believe she was married to your son." The effect is immediate and dramatic. Margaret's face hardens. Her champagne glass stops halfway to her lips, and her entire demeanor shifts from charming hostess to protective mother. "Oh, her." Margaret's voice drops to a whisper. "I'm afraid that was a very unfortunate chapter in our family's history. David was young, made poor choices in romantic partners." "Poor choices?" Sarah inquires innocently. "I heard she was quite devoted to the family. 10 years of marriage, wasn't it?" "Devotion means nothing without proper breeding. Margaret snaps, forgetting her audience entirely. The woman was completely unsuitable. No family money, no connections, no understanding of our social obligations. David realized his mistake eventually. Thank goodness. Sarah nods sympathetically. It must have been difficult for her, being cast out after so many years of service to your family. Service. Margaret laughs bitterly. She was a parasite, plain and simple, living off David's success, contributing nothing but children and constant neediness. We're all much better off without her dragging us down. The venom in Margaret's voice is breathtaking. Even now, even while begging for money from strangers, she can't resist twisting the knife into Sarah's memory. I see, Sarah says quietly. And where is she now? Working in a coffee shop, last I heard. Living in some tiny apartment, completely broke. Margaret's satisfaction is obvious. Exactly where someone like her belongs. Sarah finishes her champagne and sets the glass down with deliberate precision. How fascinating, she says, her voice carrying a new edge that makes Margaret suddenly uncomfortable. It's remarkable how quickly fortunes can change, isn't it? Before Margaret can respond, the evening's entertainment begins. A jazz trio that Sarah recognizes as costing approximately half of what the family spent on this entire event in previous years. As the music plays, Sarah observes the family's increasing desperation. David cornering wealthy guests with investment opportunities. Jessica practically auctioning off family heirlooms disguised as exclusive collectibles. Amanda shamelessly flirting with an elderly businessman whose wife died recently, clearly angling for his checkbook as much as his attention. The Whitmore family, in their pursuit of maintaining appearances, has become everything they once accused Sarah of being: desperate, grasping, and willing to sacrifice dignity for financial survival. But the evening's climax comes when Margaret returns to Sarah's table one final time, emboldened by champagne and desperation. Ms. Sterling, I hope our conversation about David's ex-wife didn't give you the wrong impression about our family. We pride ourselves on our judgment of character, our ability to recognize quality when we see it. She leans closer, her voice dropping to what she imagines is conspiratorial whisper. That's why I can tell immediately that you're exactly the kind of person who understands real value, real class. You're nothing like that pathetic little gold digger who tried to infiltrate our family. Sarah looks directly into Margaret's eyes, the same eyes that watched her humiliation 6 months ago with such satisfaction. You're absolutely right, Mrs. Whitmore, she says with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I'm nothing like her at all. As the evening winds down, Sarah makes her excuses and prepares to leave, but not before dropping one final seed of uncertainty. Mrs. Whitmore, I'll have my people contact yours about future partnerships. I think there might be some very interesting opportunities ahead for both our organizations. She pauses at the door, looking back at the family that destroyed her old life. After all, she adds with perfect timing, I believe in second chances. Sometimes people get exactly what they deserve. As Sarah walks to her car, not the aging Honda Civic she drove to their mockery 6 months ago, but a sleek BMW that she purchased with cash, she can feel the weight of the lottery ticket she still carries in her purse. Soon, very soon, it will be time to stop playing games. But first, she has one more surprise for the Whitmore family. One that will make tonight's begging seem like a fond memory. Can you believe the nerve of these people? Even while begging for money, they're still trash-talking Sarah. But here's my question for you. If you were Sarah right now, would you drop the bomb immediately and destroy them publicly, or would you keep building toward an even bigger reveal? And what do you think that final surprise is going to be? Let me know your predictions in the comments. And if you're as invested in Sarah's revenge as I am, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next is going to be absolutely legendary. 3 weeks after the charity gala, Sarah receives a call she's been waiting for. Mrs. Chun. Her lawyer's voice crackles through the phone. The Whitmore family has requested an emergency mediation session. Apparently, they want to discuss modifying your custody arrangement. Sarah sits in her new penthouse apartment, a space that overlooks the very neighborhood where she once lived as David's wife, and smiles. Modifying how? They're claiming financial hardship and requesting a reduction in child support. They also want to discuss, and I quote, Sarah's recent suspicious activities and potential fraud. Perfect. They've taken the bait. Schedule it, Sarah says calmly. The Grandview Hotel Conference Center. Make sure they book the largest room available. Mrs. Chun, that seems excessive for a family mediation. Trust me, Michael, we're going to need the space. The day of the mediation arrives gray and drizzling, as if the weather itself is anticipating the storm about to break. Sarah enters the conference room, to find the entire Whitmore clan assembled like a tribunal. David sits at the head of the table, flanked by his mother and sisters. Their lawyer, a sharp-eyed man named Richardson, has stacks of papers arranged before him like weapons. They've also brought Melissa, David's girlfriend, who's clearly been coached to play the role of the sympathetic new partner burdened by David's unreasonable ex-wife. But there are others present too, people Sarah doesn't recognize. A private investigator, by the look of him, a forensic accountant. They've come prepared for war. Sarah, David begins, his voice carrying the condescending tone she remembers so well, we need to talk about your recent changes in lifestyle. Changes? Sarah settles into her chair with practiced calm. Her own lawyer sits beside her, but she's barely acknowledged his presence. This is her show now. Margaret leans forward, her eyes gleaming with predatory satisfaction. Don't play innocent with us, dear. We know you've been living beyond your means. Designer clothes, expensive dinners, mysterious business meetings. The question is, where's the money coming from? Jessica jumps in with obvious excitement. We think you've been hiding assets from the divorce. Maybe skimming from some business account, or, she pauses dramatically, engaging in illegal activities. The accusation hangs in the air like smoke. They're actually accusing her of being a criminal. Sarah's lawyer starts to object, but she places a gentle hand on his arm. Let them finish, she says quietly. Richardson, their lawyer, slides a folder across the table. Mrs. Chun, we have evidence of suspicious financial activity. Bank transfers from unknown sources, payments to luxury service providers, real estate inquiries far above your documented income level. We hire an investigator, Amanda adds smugly. He's been tracking your activities for weeks. The private investigator, a thin man with nervous energy, opens his own folder. Subject has been observed meeting with high-end financial advisors, touring multi-million-dollar properties, and dining at restaurants that cost more than her monthly income. She's clearly funding these activities through undisclosed means. David nods gravely, as if this pains him deeply. Sarah, we're concerned about our daughters being exposed to whatever illegal activities you're involved in. We think it's best that they live with me full-time until you can explain where this money is coming from. The room falls silent. They're actually trying to take her children away based on their assumption that her improved circumstances must be criminal. Sarah looks around the table at these people who once claimed to love her, who held her babies when they were born, who smiled at family photos that now probably sit in garbage cans. You want to know where the money comes from? She asks, her voice perfectly level. Yes, Margaret snaps. And don't you dare lie to us. We have investigators, accountants, lawyers. If you've been stealing or committing fraud, we'll find out. Sarah reaches into her purse, the same worn purse she carried to their mocking dinner 9 months ago, and removes a small piece of paper. She places it on the table in front of David. The money comes from this. David looks down at what appears to be a lottery ticket. His brow furrows in confusion. A lottery ticket? Sarah, this is serious. We're not here for your jokes or... Check the numbers, David. Something in her voice makes him actually look at the paper. His eyes scan the numbers. Then he reaches for his phone. What are you doing? Margaret asks impatiently. She's given us lottery numbers. From... He checks the date from 9 months ago. This is ridiculous, Jessica declares. Sarah, we're talking about thousands of dollars in suspicious spending, and you're showing us some old lottery ticket. Sarah's lawyer slides his own folder across the table. This one is considerably thicker. Ladies and gentlemen, I present documentation from the State Lottery Commission confirming my client's winning ticket, the sum of $200 million, drawn 9 months and 12 days ago. The silence that follows is unlike anything Sarah has ever experienced. It's not just quiet. It's the sound of an entire worldview collapsing. Richardson, the lawyer, opens a folder with shaking hands. His face goes white as he reads the first document. This can't be real. Oh, it's very real, Sarah says, standing slowly. $200 million. After taxes, roughly $120 million in cash value. David stares at the lottery ticket, as if it might spontaneously combust. But you work at a coffee shop. You live in that tiny apartment. You drive that old car. I worked at a coffee shop, Sarah corrects. Past tense. I quit yesterday. The apartment was temporary while I decided where I wanted to live permanently. And the old car? Well, I kept it for sentimental reasons. It reminded me of who I used to be. Margaret's champagne glass slips from her fingers, shattering against the conference table. You've been lying to us for 9 months? Lying. Sarah's voice carries a new edge now, sharp as broken glass. I've been living my truth for 9 months. The same truth you try to destroy with your cruelty. She begins walking around the table, her heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. Do you remember what you said to me at that dinner, Margaret? About people knowing their place? About me being unsuitable for your family? Margaret opens her mouth, but no sound emerges. And you, Jessica, asking me about finding real work instead of my little craft projects. Those little craft projects, by the way, were paintings that sold for $50,000 each, before I won the lottery. Jessica shrinks back in her chair as Sarah approaches. Amanda, you asked about food stamps. Would you like to know what I've been spending my money on instead? I've established a $50 million foundation for single mothers. I've purchased 3 commercial properties that I'm converting into affordable housing. I've funded full scholarships for 200 women to complete their college educations. The private investigator looks like he wants to disappear into his chair. And David, Sarah turns to face her ex-husband. You want to take my children away because you assume my success must be criminal. The same way you assume my worth as a person was tied to my bank account. David's new girlfriend, Melissa, who has been silent throughout the confrontation, suddenly finds her voice. If you had all this money, why didn't you say anything? Why let us think? Think what? Sarah interrupts. That I was worthless? That I deserved your mockery and cruelty? That humiliating me was entertainment? She returns to her seat, but remains standing. I stayed silent because I wanted to see who you really were when you thought I had nothing. And you showed me exactly who you are. Richardson clears his throat nervously. Mrs. Chun, if we could perhaps discuss the custody arrangement. There's nothing to discuss, Sarah says firmly. My children will continue living with me as originally arranged. David will continue paying the support that was ordered by the court. The only thing that's changed is that I no longer need his money. But surely, Margaret begins, her voice weak and desperate, surely we can put this misunderstanding behind us. You're still family, after all. The girls need their grandparents, their aunts. Family? Sarah's laugh is sharp and bitter. You made it very clear that I was never family. You told everyone I was a parasite, remember? A gold digger who trapped your precious son. She leans forward, her hands flat against the table. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to leave this room and continue building my new life. My daughters will grow up knowing they're loved unconditionally, not because of what they can provide or how they make others look. And you, she looks directly at Margaret, you can continue your charity galas and your book clubs, talking about people less fortunate than yourselves. Just remember that one of those less fortunate people is now worth more than your entire family combined. Sarah gathers her purse and moves toward the door, then pauses. Oh, and Margaret, that anonymous donation that saved your charity gala last month, the one that kept you from complete social embarrassment. Margaret's eyes widen in horror. That was me. Sterling Investments is my company. I saved your reputation while you were trash-talking me to anyone who would listen. The final devastation is complete. They didn't just mock her, they took money from her while mocking her. As Sarah reaches the door handle, David finally finds his voice. Sarah, wait, please. We made mistakes, but we can fix this. We can be better. She turns back one last time, and for just a moment, her expression softens. David, for 10 years, I beg you to see my worth as more than what I could provide for your career. For 9 months, I've watched your family mock my poverty while unknowingly begging for my wealth. The time for being better was every single day you chose not to be. Sarah, my name, she says quietly, is Ms. Chun to you, and if you want to see your daughters, you'll treat me with the respect I should have received all along. She opens the door and steps into the hallway, leaving behind a room full of people whose entire understanding of power, worth, and justice has just been obliterated. Behind her, she hears Melissa's voice, shrill with panic. David, do you realize what this means? She could buy and sell our entire family. And Margaret, her voice broken and desperate. We have to fix this. We have to make her forgive us. But Sarah doesn't look back. She's done with their world of conditional love and transactional relationships. She has $120 million, 2 beautiful daughters, and a future that's entirely her own. The game is over, and she won. Holy freaking wow. Can you imagine the look on their faces when that lottery ticket hit the table? But here's what I need to know. Do you think Sarah was too merciful, or was this the perfect level of devastation? And what do you think happens next? Will they try to crawl back into her life, or will they finally leave her alone? Drop your thoughts below. And if this story gave you the justice chills like it gave me, smash that subscribe button, because we're about to wrap this up with the most satisfying conclusion ever. 6 months later, Sarah stands on the balcony of her new home, a stunning contemporary masterpiece overlooking the city skyline. It's not the largest house she could afford or the most ostentatious, but it's perfect for her and her daughters. Warm, welcoming, filled with natural light and her own artwork. Emma and Sophie are in the backyard, playing on a swing set that Sarah built with her own hands, something she never had time for during her marriage, when every moment was devoted to supporting David's ambitions. "Mom!" Emma calls out. "Come push us." "Coming, sweetheart." Sarah calls back, but first she finishes reading the morning newspaper. The business section features a small article that makes her smile. Whitmore Enterprises declares bankruptcy. The family business that once seemed so mighty, so permanent, has finally collapsed under the weight of poor investments and mounting scandals. David's engagement to Melissa lasted exactly 3 weeks after their confrontation. Apparently, she wasn't interested in a man who couldn't provide the luxury lifestyle she'd been promised. Margaret's charity board quietly asked her to step down after several major donors withdrew their support. Turns out, people don't want to associate with someone who publicly mocks the very people her charity claims to help. Jessica and Amanda have both moved back in with their mother, their own marriages having crumbled when their husbands realized the Whitmore money was gone. But Sarah feels no satisfaction in their downfall. In fact, she feels nothing about them at all, which is perhaps the greatest victory of all. Her phone buzzes with a text from her business partner, Maria Santos, a brilliant woman she met through her scholarship program. The gallery opening is sold out, 300 people confirmed, and the mayor wants to speak at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The Chun Foundation Art Center opens next week, a world-class facility offering free art education to underserved children, exhibition space for emerging artists, and workshop for adults returning to creative careers. It's built in the same neighborhood where Sarah once lived in that tiny apartment, working at the coffee shop and wondering if she'd ever feel worthy of anything again. Her phone rings, and David's name appears on the screen. Sarah almost declines the call, but curiosity wins. "Hello, David." Miss Chun. I saw the article about your art center. It looks incredible." His voice carries none of its former arrogance. He sounds tired, defeated, genuinely humbled. "Thank you. I also wanted to say..." He pauses, clearly struggling. "I wanted to apologize for everything. The way we treated you during the marriage, during the divorce, after. There's no excuse for it." Sarah walks inside, settling into the window seat of her home office. The walls are covered with her paintings, vibrant, confident work that reflects the woman she's become. "I appreciate that, David. I know I have no right to ask, but the girls are happy, aren't they?" "Really happy." For the first time since their confrontation, Sarah's voice warms slightly. "They're thriving. Emma's taking violin lessons, and Sophie's learning to paint. They're both excelling in school. They have friends. They feel secure and loved." "Good. That's good." His voice cracks slightly. "I know I failed them too. Failed as a husband, as a father, as a man." "David," Sarah says gently, "you can still be a good father. That door isn't closed. But it requires you to actually change, not just apologize." "I know. I'm trying. I'm in therapy now, dealing with a lot of things." "I'm glad to hear that." There's a long pause before David speaks again. "Sarah, Miss Chen, would it be possible for me to see the girls? Not for custody or anything legal, just to spend time with them, to try to be the father they deserve." Sarah looks out at her daughters, still playing the golden afternoon light, carefree and confident in ways she never was at their age. If you can prove you've actually changed, not just financially desperate, but genuinely different, then yes. They deserve to have a father who loves them unconditionally. "Thank you," he whispers. "Thank you for not shutting that door completely." After David hangs up, Sarah sits in the quiet of her beautiful home and reflects on the journey that brought her here. The lottery win didn't just give her financial freedom. It gave her the power to discover who she really was when she wasn't defined by other people's expectations. It allowed her to help hundreds of other women find their own paths to independence. It let her show her daughters that a woman's worth isn't measured by her relationship status or bank account, but by her character, kindness, and contributions to the world. Most importantly, it taught her that the best revenge isn't destruction. It's success. It's building something beautiful from the ashes of what others tried to burn down. Her daughters run inside, faces flushed with happiness and grass stains on their clothes. "Mom, we're hungry," Sophie announces. "What should we make for dinner?" Sarah asks, pulling them both into a hug. "Can we cook together?" Emma asks, "Like all of us help?" "Of course we can, baby." As they head to the kitchen, a warm, inviting space nothing like the cold, formal kitchen of her married life, Sarah's phone buzzes one more time. It's an email from Harvard Business School confirming her acceptance into their executive program. At 36, she's finally pursuing the dream she postponed for someone else's ambitions. The email signature includes a quote that makes her smile. "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." As Sarah helps her daughters wash vegetables for dinner, she thinks about that quiet woman who sat at the Whitmore dining table 9 months ago, clutching a coffee cup and enduring wave after wave of mockery. That woman thought she was powerless, worthless, defeated. She had no idea she was actually sitting on the foundation of an empire. Later that night, after the girls are asleep, Sarah sits at her easel, painting by moonlight. The canvas shows a woman standing at the edge of a cliff, not falling but soaring, her arms outstretched like wings, her face turned toward the sun. On her desk, framed and displayed proudly, is that lottery ticket, not as a trophy or reminder of victory, but as a symbol of what's possible when you refuse to let other people define your worth. The phone rings one final time. It's Margaret. Sarah looks at the name on the screen and, for the first time in her life, feels genuinely sorry for her former mother-in-law. Margaret spent so many years measuring people by their bank accounts that she never learned to see their actual value. Sarah declines a call and returns to her painting. Some bridges are meant to be burned. Others are meant to be walked away from with grace. And some people are meant to discover that their real strength was never about money at all. They laughed at her silence, thinking it was weakness. But her silence was the loudest answer of all. And there you have it. The ultimate story of quiet revenge and personal triumph. Sarah didn't just get rich. She got free. She didn't just beat her enemies. She transcended them entirely. But here's my final question for you. Do you believe revenge is best served quietly like Sarah did, or should it be loud and unforgettable? And what would you have done differently in her shoes? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story of justice and transformation moved you, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Because sometimes the best stories aren't about the money. They're about the person you become when you realize you were valuable all along. Thanks for joining me on Sarah's incredible journey, and I'll see you in the next one.